Good morning. It is Friday morning, April 5th, 2019, and it's time for your morning walk with me, Sophfronia. I am in Edgerton Park in New Haven, Connecticut this morning. It is still not quite spring here. It's kind of cold, but I wanted to be out in nature today after a couple of weeks of a lot of traveling and being in my minivan and in an airplane for a lot. So this is a really beautiful space, and I thought it would be wonderful to be here this morning. So this week I wanted to talk about something that came up in one of my classes that I teach this week. And a student asked me a really great question about how do you bring meaning to a story or a book. You know, how do you write something that to the point where it's noted in a review that, you know, the writer is obviously talking about X or has strong feelings about Y. And and this student is an undergraduate. So I was thinking about how sometimes it feels like that type of writing comes with time, right? She's talking about a level of gravity and depth. But the more I thought about it, I realized that it's not like you have to wait to get older in order to write deep things. I think meaning comes from writing about things that mean something to you. And what is that about? Well, what I mean by that is that you write from a place of what you believe about the world. I think that if you sit down to say, oh, I'm going to send a message with my writing, I don't think that goes over well. It feels like you're hitting the reader over the head with a hammer or something. But if you write from a place of, well, this is the way I believe the world works, and your characters act out certain situations accordingly, the reader will pick up on that. An example I like to use comes from my first novel, All I Need to Get By. And there's a scene where two women who are in love with the same guy, his current girlfriend and a former girlfriend, and they're basically in a pretty heated discussion about, you know, don't take him from me, you know. And when that scene is discussed in book clubs, I always got a very similar reaction where people would say, or women would say, well, I would have torn her hair out, or I would have scratched her eyes out, and there would have been a fight. And they asked me about that, and, you know, I say to them, I know, but I just believe women shouldn't treat each other that way, especially over a guy. I have a very specific belief, and I wrote that scene specifically from that belief. So that's how it can turn up in your writing. And the fact that they talked about it, readers talked about it so much, means that they picked up on it, right? So I didn't have to say outright, women should not fight over men, but it was there in that scene. So what do you believe about the world? You know, Flannery O'Connor, in the prayer journal that she wrote when she was still a very young writer, talked about how she was hoping that her Christian beliefs showed up in her work. And she wasn't even sure how that would happen. But in her prayer journal, she was praying to God and saying that she hoped she could make that work. We tend to think about beliefs in terms of religion, but like I said, it can be just a belief that you have about the world. Wayne Dyer says a belief is really something, a thought that you have over and over again. So do you believe people should be kind to each other? Do you believe love makes us crazy? Do you believe there should be spaces of nature conserved so that people can have beautiful walks like this each morning? I don't know. Think about that. And think about how what you believe shows up in your writing. It may already be there, you just don't realize it. And once you do know, you can kind of hone in on it, revise work accordingly, this can help you to develop the voice that is uniquely yours. It's just something to think about. I believe in spring, even though it's not quite here yet. But I'm going to keep walking and I'm going to keep looking for it. I will see you again next week. Good luck with your writing. Take care.